48-hour art check. Round 124.
Yes.
Gotta come up with a different way to say that each time.
48-hour art check.
That's my new challenge.
Round.
That's going to be difficult when you get 124 already.
Gotta come up with a different way to say
Dang
that
it.
each time.
Stupid. 48-hour art check.
That's my new challenge. All right, there we go. Sorry. I thought I had it muted, but it doesn't actually mute until the... Anyway, long story. No more echoes. No more echoes. So...
I love it.
Yeah.
I like the extra macro at the end. I think that's good. That's a good addition to the show.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good stuff. All right. So we are here once again.
Yes.
The three of us.
Yeah.
We've already got people in the chat. Squatchy Inc. What's up, man? So should we jump in? Who wants to go first?
Let's do it. I'll go.
Okay, cool.
Okay. What'd you get done in the last 48 hours, Josh?
All right. So I have drawn 2 rough pencils, and I will try to do a little bit of tight pencils tonight. And I am exhausted because I had a friend in from Seattle, so we were up fairly late on Sunday night, and so on. So,
But you're not going to mention any puppets?
oh yeah, made some puppets. I guess he teaches at a high school. Is doing like Little Shop of Horrors, and so we built some bunch of puppets. Yeah, pretty awesome puppets actually. I should have taken photos, but I wasn't sure since it's for like a play whether they want to actually share those or not. But it's fun to make like weird kind of carnivorous plants as puppets.
I've got to pick your brain on how to do that at some point, because it just seems like I know so little about it that it just seems like magic. You know, it's like just like beyond, like, I don't know what it kind of looks like felt. That's about the only thing I've kind of nailed down. Is it might be felt.
I wanted to, when I first like built the art lab set and everything, I really wanted to have like puppets, like interact with puppets and stuff. And still kind of, I think about it, but I just don't. I think it would just be too much.
I would love
for me to do, you know.
I would love a Scott Serkland puppet channel. I think that would be amazing.
Well, I was gonna make it like a robot and an alien and a zombie, and they just have them kind of interact and stuff.
Oh my gosh, this has to happen.
I used to program animatronics.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, not like a lot, but I've done a couple. Like I did a little skeleton guy. He's like I think he's on a pirate ship in a miniature golf course in Maine. He just sits on the top of the pirate ship, and it's my stupid little voice, and it was really fun because you just had pistons, right? You just got like little pneumatic pistons, and then you just assign each piston to a key on your keyboard, and so there's all these dudes trying to figure it out, and I was like, finally, decades of video games have paid off. Step aside, please. Let me. And I was able to lay down all of the tracks all at the same time, except the jaw. So I could control everything else simultaneously, except I went and did the sound on a second pass. It was really fun. It was pretty cool.
I designed an animatronic. I didn't build it, but I designed an animatronic parrot for a bar in the Honolulu airport. It's called Stinger Rays, which I'm sure it's not. This was in the 90s, but yeah, it talked and told corny jokes and all that kind of stuff. That was kind of cool.
That's amazing. I think this is just begging the question, why don't we have animatronic puppets on our shows? Come on, guys. Let's up our game. Let's make this happen. With
the amount of buttons that I have already screwed up to push during the live show, I really should add more. That's what we're lacking, is like an animatronic to like go nuts.
Yeah, but I would love to have like a very dull, like Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln style, like just one of us is talking and it's like, I don't know if that.
Did you ever see? I know we're getting way off topic, but did you ever used to watch the Ben Stiller show?
Yeah.
They had this one that was this doors, the door, because this was back. It was at Oliver Stone Amusement Park, and they had the doors right. It was like the Wild, it was Jim Morrison's Wild Ride. And it's just this, and just these that whoever was playing in the skit, but they were acting, kind of going like this, and they're going, break on through, break on through. it was pretty.
It's so good.
So
Tim, still one of the best Bono impersonations ever.
Yeah, that was good too.
Tim is saying he's in Maine and he'd love to know where it is. I don't even know if it's in Maine. My memory's pretty bad, and it was over a decade ago. And I think it was in Maine, but I can't remember where. Sorry. But yeah. So Scott, how about you? What did you get done in the last 48 hours?
Quite a bit, I guess. I did, as usual, when I come on here, I have posted the 100 days update. So I did my, wrapped up my 100 days for the week and did the video and all that kind of stuff. I submitted some business cards. I'm trying to prep stuff for the conference that's coming up that Cory and I are going to. I worked on some zombie promos, like some of my zombie sketches. I actually, when I did some of them, I filmed them, so I sped them up and everything. So I'm going to be putting those probably out on Facebook and everything to help promote the Kickstarter. I'm working on a mini comics video, just kind of my process. I've done those before, but I kind of want to do an updated version that kind of show. This would also be a cross promotion for the Kickstarter to show like what my mini comics look like, because I'm working on putting together a mini comic for the 4th issue. Freelance project. I'm actually doing some digital inks for the first time on this freelance project, which I can't really share yet, but as soon as I can, I will, because it's pretty awesome. It's got a lot of cool robots and stuff on it. And then let's see. And this isn't technically, I think some of the images might be flashing by, but not technically 48 hours ago, but on Saturday was Hellboy Day. So I went out to the comic book store, and I, with some other artists, with Vincent DePorter, who draws SpongeBob, among other things. And we kind of hung out, and everyone was kind of, anyone that wanted to come and draw with us, so we had just a bunch of people drawing, and then we kind of raffled off some of the drawings we did. So I did some Hellboy sketches, and then I did a commission of a character from the what was it, the Groovy Ghoulies, which is a show that I never watched as a kid, and I don't know why, because it like totally right up my alley. So I'm gonna have to see if I can check that out on YouTube. But anyway, yeah, that's pretty much what I did.
Nice.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, so I kind of bombed most of my goals. I finished that cassette tape thing that I was looking at finishing, and it looked like crap, and so I threw it away. And then I did a zombie hand to promote Scott's Kickstarter. So I don't know if anybody came that way.
My Kickstarter? Awesome.
Oh yeah, check it out on Instagram. I told everybody to go check it out. And then I finally got around to doing that kind of step-by-step process video on how to properly plan your pre-production, which is too many P's in a thing, but like the pre-production steps of an animation. So there's like a 4.5 minute video that go through like storyboards and animatics and roughs and stuff. And I had some like side-by-sides of some of the animations that I did. So
nice.
Yeah, so that's pretty much it. And then I've decided I'm just going to randomly put different action figures on my mic in between cuts. That's my plan.
Is that Captain? I can't tell. Is that Captain Marvel?
Yeah, that's Captain Marvel. So, yeah. So Josh, how about challenges?
Challenges have been mostly just balancing social life with working. So it was a fun weekend, and saw a lot of friends and hung out with family. Caught up on I finally saw the Spider-Verse movie, which is unbelievable, and you guys have already recommended, but I definitely would recommend it if anybody's on the fence. Definitely go see it. It's kind of insane. And then just caught up on a lot of media. I watched the documentary on Michael Jackson, which will make you lose sleep if you have a son, because it's really disturbing. that Leaving Neverland one. Although once again, another really excellent movie. And then just like trying to kind of keep the momentum going on the comic has been like happening, but it's been like an extra slog. And I think it's partially because my wife and kid have been out of town, and they're a little bit of the fuel to my thing. So I'm really excited about them being back this week. So yeah, but that's been I know it's a weird struggle, but it's kind of an unusual one for me. Usually I don't struggle super hard with like the balance of like social and art stuff. So
Yeah. Yeah, no, I get that. That's hard. Scott, how about you? Challenges?
Basically my big challenge is just like everything. I talked about this on my latest video about deadlines. But everything, it's kind of a cool thing in a way. I don't know how this managed to happen. Some of it was planned, a lot of it wasn't, but everything that I'm working on right now pretty much has to be done, the day or two before I leave for the convention. So my Kickstarter is going to wrap up, like, I think a day or two before. All my client projects are like maybe a week before, like the end of this month. And what else? There's some other stuff I forgot, but basically everything kind of has to be finished before. So it's good timing in a way. But it's kind of like there's just a lot of stuff that I've got to get done. So, and I don't know if I'm going to have to sacrifice anything that I want to kind of prep for the convention or whatever, but I really would like to make those changes to my website, but I don't know if I'll get around to doing that. If I don't, it's not a big deal. Just the Kickstarter kind of in that dip right now. I kind of had a boost today though. And I don't know, maybe it was because Cory shared on Instagram. I don't know what it was. I shared on, I think it's Boost Your Kickstarter, which I've been subscribed to for a while. It's just a Facebook page. And I don't know if that helped, but yeah, I kind of had a little boost today. So maybe that had something to do with it. I'm not sure, but I'm going to start sharing more. Let's see. I don't know, just all that stuff, but I've been trying to find time to, have fun and stuff. I went and saw Us, which was awesome. That's about it.
Cool. For me, I'm just stupid. That's my biggest challenge. Like, I had plenty of time today, and I thought, I'll just sit down and play video games for 10 minutes. And so, yeah.
Was it 10?
No, it was whenever I sat down to write now. That was, okay. I don't know how long that was. which I could probably figure it out, but it'd just be more depressing. So I don't know. I hated the thing I finished. That sucked. And I'm like in that weird slump in between projects, but I'm actually feeling really good. I'm just not translating that into productivity. So I finished a video that I've been putting off for a while, and I got a couple drawings done, but you're just not as productive as I normally am. So yeah.
Can you hear that? It sounds like there's a drag race right outside my window. I don't know what it is. Some guy's revving up a motorcycle or something.
Okay.
Oh, on my end, it sounded like a dog howling.
Yeah,
oh, really?
It sounded like a werewolf to me. I was wondering if this was like
going on.
A planned promotion for werewolves and unicorns or something. Where you're like, "Do you guys hear that? Rawr!" Yeah.
Speaking of drag races and stuff, today is day 2 of having my motorcycle out. I had to replace the battery. There is still snow on the ground, but not on the road. So I'm just bundling up. But that's probably why I'm feeling much better. So, yeah. It's nothing like wearing a down jacket under your leather jacket to, make sure you don't freeze to death. As long as I'm not going to fall over, though, I'm good. So, what are your plans, Josh?
So I hope to get tight pencils for panel 1 and 2 done tonight. This is actually something I was going to talk about before Artcheck, but I probably will not be able to do the Artcheck on Wednesday because I have to go pick my wife up from the airport quite late at night.
Gasp.
Yes, but yeah. So I'm hoping to kind of get this done, and just try to like also kind of get back into being kind of energized about what I'm doing, because right now I it's weird, but it kind of, you know, those weeks where, or well, not weeks, but like days where you feel like you're kind of going through the motions with art.
No,
Like,
that never happens to me.
not really feeling it. So that's kind of where I'm at
Yeah.
today, and I can push through it by working, which I know from experience, but still there's that part of me that's like, will I push through it? You know? So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. How about you, Scott? What are your plans?
Let's see. Just gonna try, try to, hit the Kickstarter thing, try to do some more promotion on that. Tomorrow in the morning, I'll be on Jeff Lafferty's channel on his Artcast, kind of promoting it and just talking art and stuff. I haven't talked to Jeff in a while. Tuesdays are kind of my big day. It's where, like, usually I don't have the kids and I don't have to go anywhere. So hopefully I'll that's my big day to kind of get caught up on everything. So just basically everything. I still got a lot of the freelance stuff to do, some more Kickstarter promos, and work on the 100 Days of Making Comics.
Cool. It constantly amuses me how much Josh and I are in sync, because I am also kind of in that like weird like I don't know. So my plans are, I need to keep making art every day, whatever that is. I think I'm going to get into a little bit more animation this week, and then as well, I'm just still prepping for that show. While I kind of play with some things, I'm going to play a little bit around with some things for the werewolves, unicorns, and other mythical creatures anthology thing for the Kickstarter. So I'm going to see if I can do some like title graphics or animations that might spruce that up a little bit. So I'll kind of just play with that. Yeah. So we'll see. I don't know. I'm just gonna mess around a little bit. I'm not pressuring myself. I just want to stay productive, for a few days, but not like super huge pressure. And then I think I'll move into some other stuff soon. But yeah. So yeah. So that's good. We got a ton of people in the chat who have had more productive weekends than I have. So that's cool. That's cool seeing that. So we talked about two different topics. Do you guys want to do that?
They kind of go hand in hand, right?
Yeah. So what was the first one again? I remember the comic book pages.
Well, I had talked about commissions versus client work, and you had talked about was it exact? Was it pricing original art or?
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of, that's kind of all.
Yeah, I mean, particularly, in the form of comics. Comic pages and stuff. But that's more of like a curiosity. It sounds like, you've done some commissions and some drawings and stuff at Surprise Comics recently. So that'd be probably the best topic to hit right now. And then maybe we can, if we run out of room on that topic, maybe dip into the pricing comic pages.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you follow me for a little bit, I usually don't do commissions like when I'm at cons.
So Scott, let's jump into let's do the thing, and then you can, I'll just hand it off to you. So today's topic is commissions versus client work, and Scott's going to kind of kick it off for us.
Yeah, so if you've been following me for any stretch of time, you may know that I usually don't do a lot of commissions like when I'm at cons and things. Part of that reason is I kind of like to be standing up and engaging people. And sometimes if you are doing commissions, and people have argued this with me too, and I can see, you can kind of do commissions and kind of look up and see what's going on too. I think there's a little bit of multitasking you can do there, but I just like to kind of stand and engage people. That's part of it. The other part is there's kind of this weird thing about and it's not always the case, because if you find like somebody like an Adam Hughes or an Art Adams or somebody like that, they can demand a lot of money for a sketch. But as a whole, most people, I think, undercharge quite a bit for commissions. The amount of time they spend on something and what they charge, it just doesn't, it's kind of hard to justify doing something like that when, at least in my case, I could work on a client project and make a lot more. Yeah. So I haven't done a lot of those, but lately I've been doing some store signings and some events in comic book stores, which is a little different dynamic than a comic convention, because I don't think you're so worried about like trying to engage people and bringing them in. They're kind of already in, and there's not a whole lot of other competition and things like that, as far as you're kind of competing for eyeballs and things like that, as far as, you know, people just walking by your booth and trying to get their attention because it's just a smaller setting and everything. So I started doing some commissions, and I don't know, I'm starting to kind of like it now, but I'm trying to figure out where to draw the line, because I don't want to devalue the work that I'm going to do for clients. I don't want somebody to say, well, why would I pay this amount of money when I could just have you do this, you know, sketch or this drawing for this price that's a lot less. And I guess it's just a matter of trying to figure out how to differentiate the two, you know. And some of that is, I think you just have to, you know, set some parameters and let people know actually what a sketch is and what it involves and how much time it takes. Because, you know, when I was doing commissions in these stores, you know, I was charging $20 a commission. But they're pretty rough sketches. If you've seen the stuff I'm doing for my Kickstarter with the zombie sketches, they're kind of like that, and they don't take me 20 minutes to do. So, you know, that's not really a bad price, really. I mean, it's not really a bad turnaround. I couldn't like take a ton of, you know, a lot of them. And the other thing that I would kind of, for me anyway, one of the rules I would set is that it's something that I'll do while I'm at a store, but if it's not something that I would take home, because if somebody says, well, I want to commission you, can you do this at home or whatever? Like one of the guys that's commissioned me to do like 2 or 3 drawings already. He didn't ask this or anything, but he said, next time you're at the store, I want you to do these characters for me. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool. But if he would have asked, can you do these and I'll pay you for them, like bring them home? I don't think I would do that, because it just, my time at home and on these client projects is a little more valuable than that. At least sometimes. I mean, it's kind of a weird thing, because I do a lot of stuff where I don't get paid anything for when I do, you know, but that's like brand building and things like that. That's hopefully in the long run, it will benefit me.
Yeah. There's a lot of value to that. I mean, it's not an immediate value, but like, you know, how much value do I get out of drawing Captain Marvel or, you know, Miles Morales or something? Right. It's kind of like derivative of somebody else's IP, and then I make somebody happy, and then, you know, and that's cool. But like, I'll tell this story, because I think this is relevant. I was talking to a guy yesterday, and he saw me down at that con I did, and he said, hey, you're going to do that show again? And we started talking about it, and he said, man, I love that stuff, because like, you know, to get those prints or originals or whatever, you know, online, it's super expensive. You get there in person and it's super cheap. And I said, oh, what'd you get? And he said, oh, I got a Dragon Ball Z thing. And he told me all about the print. He was super excited about it. And I said, oh, cool. Who is the artist? And he was like, and you could tell he felt bad immediately. And I didn't mean to make him feel bad, but he was like, I can't remember. He was like, and he tried to describe his location in the convention. And to me, that's just kind of indicative of the thing. Like, if somebody buys my, like, you know, Leia Hutslayer print, I don't know if they have any clue who I am, you know, because they don't care. They like Princess Leia, and that's fine. I'm down with that. But like, the value of that to me, you know, is literally only the money that comes in, which is low, especially on a print, compared to, you know, if somebody's like, hey, I love this guy's work, and they tell other people about it, and they, even if they never buy anything from me, like, to me, that's way more valuable, you know, than $10 or $50 or or whatever, it's like, yeah, okay, that's, money's cool, and I can go, buy food and pay rent and whatever, and that's great. But like, I'd rather invest in a community. I'd rather invest in like people who know who I am and are there because they like my art, not because they like the character or the IP that I happen to draw them when they commissioned me or whatever.
Yeah. And I mean, and it is, I enjoy doing it. I mean, I enjoy drawing like, different characters, like that one that I showed at that Groovy Ghoulies was something that, I wasn't really familiar with, and learning more about it, it was like, oh, I got to check this thing out because I like that kind of stuff. And I liked it also because it's very obscure cartoon. It wasn't like if somebody came up to me with Harley Quinn, okay, I'll draw it. But, it's like the sea of Harley Quinn or Deadpool drawings. It's like you could drown in it. So that doesn't really appeal to me that much. So, but I mean, that's why I kind of also made the parameter like that one I did differently just because I didn't, but it was still the guy who commissioned it wanted it. It's kind of odd because I said, well, what do you want me to do this on? You want me to do it on the back of a comic book board, or you want me to, I've got some blank papers, and he goes, no, do it on I want it on your Young and the Dead cards that you made. Because he had already commissioned me to do some other like zombie characters. Like I did a Planet of the Apes one, which is cool. I love Planet of the Apes. But yeah, even though it wasn't a zombie, the Planet of the Apes one was a zombie version of Planet of the Apes. This one wasn't, but he still wanted it on that. But I kind of did, at least that first time I went, when I was promoting my Kickstarter, I said, well, I'll do zombie sketches of whoever your favorite character is. So then it was kind of a different take on it, and I got to add my own thing. So that's another way to kind of separate the two,
Yeah.
Add your own spin on it and everything.
Yeah. And I don't know that there's, I mean, I don't necessarily want to get into like the fan art thing, though it's an interesting conversation to have, especially with some of the recent stuff that's going on in Kickstarter. But at the same time, like, I think it is interesting to talk about, if we're talking purely financial value, a commission versus client work. Do you want to talk real numbers or be general? Because it's an interesting thing.
We can kind of talk real numbers. My client work varies so much. It's hard. It kind of depends on the project.
Yeah. Me too.
But because with commissions, it's kind of like it's a thing and it's not used for anything else. But once you get into client work, my pricing is dependent on, well, what are they going to use this for? So it's a little different.
Yeah.
And I'd say it's fair to say most of the time that what most people charge for a commission, you should add a 0 or 2 zeros to that for client work.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah.
I would say, unfortunately, sometimes 3 zeros. I mean,
right.
And again, I would not turn in like these sketches to a client. For some reason they wanted that, because they're very rough and they're very, but there's something about that kind of style. Like, one of the it was kind of cool. I hadn't had anyone really do this, but one of the artists that came out to draw with us, he follows me on YouTube and everything, and he had bought one of my sketches, my zombie sketches, and he did what do you call it? Just an homage? What do you call it when you kind of, not that I am a master, but when you kind of replicate the masters? But he kind of redrew my drawing, and he said, after Scott Serkland or whatever, like you do, and he was showing me, and it looked really good, but it was very clean, where mine was very sketchy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And in some ways there's a lot more life when you do that. So even though it's rough, there's some life to it too. So, but that's also a kind of a stylistic thing.
Yeah. I mean,
go ahead. Sorry.
I tend to look at it in a couple of ways. I'm pretty mixed about it because when I was a kid, I would go to comic conventions. I was obsessed with Spawn, like really obsessed with Spawn. And I would go up to artists who had never drawn Spawn, or maybe had like a crossover issue with Spawn, and I'd ask them to draw Spawn. Because that's like, at that point in time, I wasn't even really all that interested in who drew it, so much as just the character. Like, I was really connected to that character. And I didn't know, when you're a little kid, it's like you don't really know like that might be irritating for a person who like maybe didn't want to have Spawn crossover, but their publisher talked them into it, or like we're trying to up the numbers for their comic and had a crossover, and now it's like, oh great, yeah, Spawn. But I always kind of keep that in mind when I'm at a convention. If there's like a kid or something and they want me to draw them something, I tend to be like pretty unjudgmental with kids on that front, but of pretty much anyone, because I understand there's people out there who just really connect with certain characters. Maybe they just want to see your take on it, or, what that would look like. And, so I don't want to knock it, but I will say I do feel like there's a lot of artists out there who like make what they think is a living off of like fan art and sketches and commissions at conventions, and what they're making is like really not much to live off of. And to me, just the fact that and I'm sure you guys are in a similar boat with this, but it's like when you work as a professional artist and you're doing illustration for like money, or you like do a day rate or something and do storyboards for a little bit for somebody, and you see the actual numbers that you're making and you kind of equate them to what you make hourly, and it's like it really does. There is a pretty big line in the sand between what even like the best of artists can charge for a commission and what you can charge for just being at a place for an hour and just drawing stuff people are telling you to draw.
Yeah.
I just would add that, if you're talking about commissions, which we are, but like as far as fan art in general, I mean, if you're selling fan art prints, you can make a lot of money. Just look at like Will Terry, what he's, making selling fan art. Which,
oh no, that's true. Yeah. I mean, you can, and I'm sure it's a hustle where you could make, you could scrape some pretty significant cash. But I'm just saying, there are a lot of people that I've seen that make their bread and butter at conventions, doing commissions and charging like $5-10 a commission, and and once again, it's like I think if you're doing that to kind of pool a little extra cash and like you're having fun doing it, no judgments. But I think if that's your business model, I just would think it's kind of a bummer, because like I think there's better ways to make revenue as an artist. And like even bringing to mind Will Terry, I mean, the guy also does do a lot of professional like kids books and things like that as well, that are his own IPs and his own properties. So I think if he were solely resting on fan art, it may not pull in exactly what he wanted. But then again, there's cases like Darth Vader and Son, things like that, where it's like kind of fan art. Although I do know that I think from what I've read on that, I think he was hired by like Google to do that initially or something.
I thought that was licensed by Lucasfilm.
That has to be licensed. There's no way that they'd allow
no. What I'm saying is he was initially like hired. I think it was Google. I know it was like a big company hired him. They had the license and they asked him to do like a bit.
Yeah.
And he did the bit, and then they dropped it, and they were like, "Oh, we don't really want to use this." And then he ended up selling it as a kid's book, and they got the license for it then.
Okay.
But he built it like the whole time under a license,
Right.
So it's a little different. But I get personally, I still have mixed feelings of it. Like I kind of side with what Scott was saying about before, where it's like at conventions, I'm less likely to kind of do that just because my brain doesn't do so well, like shifting gears and paying good attention to the table and to people who are approaching when I'm like zoned out doing a commission.
Right.
But I do wonder, like as I finish this comic and stuff, and I'm gonna have to promote it and stuff, if I do like an in-store, I don't know if I would do. I don't know if I'd have a problem with it, because once again, you're just kind of making people have a good day, and giving them something to do,
Yeah.
And something to kind of take home with them that's unique. And I don't know. I don't know if that kind of describes my feelings on it, because they're very mixed, you
Yeah.
know?
Well, and I want to say real quick, anybody making money off of their art in a legitimate way, if you're cool with it, that's fine. You know, so like I don't, and I think
Yeah.
that's I think that's what you're meaning to say, you Josh. But I think you could have been misinterpreted.
Yeah,
You
fair
know,
point.
and so, but the point is, you know, that if you take, and I do this with students all the time who charge a ridiculously low amount of money for like a logo design, right? And I'll say, well, how long did that take you? You know, how many hours did you spend on that? And they'll say, well, I spent, you know, this many hours doing this and this. Okay, so total you spent, you know, 12 hours doing that. You know, if you include like client meetings and sketches and revisions and whatever. And I said, and you charged what you thought was a lot of money, which is what, like, say it took them 10 hours just so the math is easy, and they charge $50, you know, or $75. And they're like, yeah, that's a lot of money. I'm like, that's not. Like, divide what you charged by your time,
Yeah.
and you actually would have been better off to like make your own thing and go work for 12 hours at McDonald's or
Yeah.
anywhere that would pay you anything, right? Because you would make more money doing that. And that's not disparaging fast food, you know, like, but when they think about it that way, they're like, oh, I see. Because you don't, it's not, we think about things in the units that they are offered. And so sometimes if somebody comes to you, like I remember I did a drawing last year, the year before last, one drawing for $3,500. And that seemed like a lot, but it took me a month. You know, it was super complicated.
Yeah.
And other things I've done for, you know, for $75, and it's been, you know, one and done, quick and easy, and it was worth my time. And so sometimes you look at like oh, $7 an hour, $9 an hour, $15 an hour, or I will give you $200 right now for this thing. But you don't think
Yeah.
that thing is going to cost you, it's going to take you 40 hours to do. You just think, wow,
Yeah.
$200 is a lot of money. But it's not when it comes down to the amount of work that it puts in. And then it also comes down to you're not taking into account the amount of time that it's taken you to get a specialized skill, right? Because anybody can do most entry level jobs with very little sacrifice or training. There's some getting up to speed, but like it's not like you have to say, I'm going to dedicate a huge portion of my waking life for
Yeah.
decades to get to the point where I can charge decent money for this and where I have the ability to even do it at all. You know,
Yeah.
that's where I think it gets a little fuzzy, and sometimes I think we get a little overwhelmed by the instead of having the payment broken up into pieces, it seems big because we're used to smaller numbers.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, like something I used to always tell students was just to like kind of compare yourself to like a plumber,
Yeah,
you know, because like most plumbers aren't going to charge like $10 an hour when they're working. They're going to charge like 50 or 60, sometimes 80.
yeah,
You know, if you hire an electrician, they're charging you hourly, and they're charging you for materials. And most people don't bat an eye at that. But for some reason with art, there's like this disconnect. And so to clarify too, like anybody who can manage to eke out a living of any kind doing art, just to kind of reinforce what Cory was saying, you know, kudos to you. Like that's
yeah.
good. You know, like it's a hard enough thing to make any money at. And so if you're making any money and you're making any bit of a living, that's great. But it is one of those things where I do sometimes look at like what commissions are charging, and I'm like, oh, just like sell one shirt design to a client,
Yeah.
and you've got 20 commissions, you know, like it's kind of more of a matter of just like, for me, just like thinking about resources. However, I think what Scott's talking about, like at the comic shop, like to me, that's one of those moments where I'm like, I do get it. And I think the commission model works really effectively in that context, you know? And this is all just kind of speaking for myself personally, because it's something I hesitate to do, but I'm not like, I don't think people who do it are terrible or anything, you know?
Right.
I don't know, but like, I do kind of tend to side with the idea of like, you're kind of an entertainer at the point that you're at a convention. Like you're sort of there for other people. And so I think whatever you can do to kind of make that a great experience for those people, do it, you know, like, but as for like being at home and stuff, I don't know. It's an interesting topic, you know. I don't know. It's fascinating to me. Because Scott, you were saying like you draw the line at bringing it home, you know, and I think that's interesting, and I kind of want to dip into it. Like, why do you draw the line at bringing it home?
Because my time at home is limited, and I don't know. I maybe if I didn't have any other like client projects going on, but if that's going to eat into something that's going to, you know, that's going to pay me more for doing something that's going to pay me less, then, you know, that's kind of a problem.
Yeah. Well, and it's another thing. Sorry to cut you off, Josh. It's another thing along those lines that I used to study money like a lot, probably more than somebody should. But one of the theories out there is called opportunity cost, right? An opportunity cost is an economic principle that means that the cost of something is actually what you have to sacrifice to do it. And so, for example, the opportunity cost of mowing my lawn is the next most valuable thing. And if the next most valuable thing is watching TV or playing video games, I should mow my lawn, right? But if the next most valuable thing is actually, you know, I make $200 during the time that it would have taken me to mow my lawn, then that's not a trade that makes sense. I should pay somebody $20, not mow my lawn, and make $180 during that point in time. Yeah, exactly. And so that's kind of what it seems like Scott is saying is like your opportunity cost of like, you're in a comic shop, you're sitting there, you're there to entertain and hang out with people and do stuff. And like, you're not sacrificing anything to draw while you're there. Right. But when you come home, the opportunity cost of you working on your own intellectual property, you know, doing another page of your comic, you know, putting out a video that's going to build your audience, the opportunity cost of that is actually significantly high. And so, you know, somebody's giving you $10 for a commission or $50 for a commission or $100 for a commission. Well, could you make $500 during that point in time? Could you gain, you know, 10 people that hadn't seen you before and now are, you know, big fans of your work? Because the sacrifice and the trade-off of that opportunity cost isn't worth it.
Yeah, that's perfectly put. I can't really think of a thing to add to that other than just, you know, I think that's a really good model. And I think part of what I'd like to see more often with people completely relying on commissions is to kind of like, if you took that energy from like 5 commissions and got like a solid client, you know, you'd make more, right? You know, and that to me is where it comes from. Like if I sound kind of like angry about it or something like that, it's more of just like I actually kind of want what's best for artists. And sometimes when I see that, I'm like, wow, like that you could be doing much better.
So Josh, I'd like to play devil's advocate, not because I disagree with you, but because I think
I love it.
Role playing is an interesting way to go through this. So what would you say to somebody who says, well, it's easy for you to say, it seems like you can just go get a client whenever you want. I don't have clients beating down my door. So, you know, so what do you say to that?
Yeah. So, I mean, I would say that if you're busy doing commissions, let's say hypothetically, like what Scott was charging, but like, once again, I'm not talking about in the content. I think I've already made it pretty clear. Like, I don't think there's any issue with doing that at like a comic shop, even at a convention. But let's say Scott were to like bring home, you know, like 20 commissions from the comic shop to work on. So just once again, you want to kind of, like Cory was talking about, you want to do the math and just calculate the hours you're going to spend doing that. And think about this, like, 20 for 20, what is that? I'm bad at math. That's like $400.
Yeah.
$400. And let's say you knock them out, like, what, how long would you say? Like, what is a good estimate for that? Like,
let's say an hour a piece, just to make it easy.
Hour a piece. Okay. So like 20 hours. So like, what would you get working, like, just like Cory was pointing out, like, what would you get if you just like got a part-time job and worked 20 hours?
If you're making minimum wage, it'd be roughly the same.
Yeah.
Right.
Really?
Well,
I guess California is a little different.
Yeah. I don't live in California.
Okay. So I'm like, in California, you'd actually be, pretty much making more, and you'd actually like possibly have benefits and stuff like that.
Right.
Just working like a minimum wage job. But then you want to like also calculate like what happens if you spend 10 hours sending out like prompts for clients, because that's what I'm getting at. Like, the point being, the clients don't just come to you, especially at first, and they don't knock down your doors. And even if they do, there's usually famine periods where the clients are going to disappear. And a lot of how you kind of get momentum as an artist is to kind of build those relationships and build those clients up. And so I would say spend, 15 hours searching for a client, and you could get one client that will easily double that amount that you'd make doing those 20 commissions. And that's my point.
And to carry on to that, to cap onto that, to add to that, that's what I was looking for. That one client has way more potential to turn into 2 clients or a retainer or 5 clients than that are also paying that, right? And so if you think, oh well, I'll do this, and they'll tell their friends, and they'll tell their friends, and they'll tell the problem is that people that are paying $10 a drawing, they hang out with people that are paying $10 a drawing. And so you're getting quantity maybe for your commissions. But you could get one $500 job. Like I did a job over the weekend that took me roughly 6.5 hours that I'm going to pull in, close to $650 on, right? And that will turn into other work along those lines. And it's the work that I can say, yeah, that's worth it. That's worth me not doing the thing that I wanted to do, the thing that's going to build my audience. I'll momentarily pause that, for half a day, and I'll knock this out. And it's like, I can't say too much about it, but it's going to end up in a medical journal that it's not like anybody's going to look at me and be like, ooh, I'd like him to illustrate a children's book for me now, or whatever, but the money was enough that it made it worth it. Whereas if somebody came to me and said, which happens every once in a while, they say, hey, I'd like you to draw, this character, or I'd like you to draw this thing, or whatever. And they're offering like normal commission rates. It's not like I have the ability to draw it faster. It's not like I have the ability to, go into a time warp where it doesn't make me sacrifice something. So there's still that thing, and all I get out of it. The other thing that I want to bring up, and this is huge to me. This is huge. And I've done long video rants on this, but I feel like artists often get caught in the trap, and I do this all the time. So I'm speaking from personal experience, but also almost everybody that I talk to, using money as a validation for their art.
Yes.
And saying that my art has value because people are willing to pay X amount of money for it. And there's something about that when you haven't sold anything ever or for a long time, and somebody says, here's money, any money. And you're like, oh, I'm now making money off my art. Now I'm valid. Now I am, but when your validity and your value as an artist is intrinsic. It has nothing to do with the external forces. Now, there is a measurement of quality. There's a measurement of supply and demand. There's lots of things that money is a hint towards. You know, the fact that somebody is willing to take money that they have worked hard to earn and spend it on my stuff is a huge compliment to me. Every dollar that I make off my art, I take as a giant thank you card, a giant compliment. It's amazing to me. But I always try really hard not to fall into the trap of trying to validate being an artist through the currency, trying to say that it's okay to be an artist, or that I haven't wasted my time, or that I am a person of value because people are buying my work. Because frankly, if I do that, I know what happens. I will go down a road that I don't want to go down. I will start chasing the dollar rather than chasing what's inside of me. And my message is weird, and it doesn't meet with the masses. And so for me, the fulfillment that I get out of creating something authentic is way more important to me than creating something that the masses like that I don't care about. And so if I do start to get into that mentality, because I could do that, I could be like, okay, what big movie is coming out? I'm going to plan this and take it from a very business-like situation. There's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but for me, that would be very wrong, because I would be doing it inauthentically. I would be doing it because I'd be chasing the dollar, because I want to validate my existence through other people's money. And that's a huge problem in the art community.
So, I mean, I will say, like, one case I can imagine, there's a couple, like I just said, you know, you're at a signing, you want to kind of make people have a good day,
sure,
and make a little extra cash. Like, I don't see an issue with doing commissions. Another case is, like, let's say you're just like, it's a Sunday or something, and you're like between projects and you just got time to kill, and you're like, I don't know, you know, $10, I'll draw whatever you want, you know. Like, I actually can kind of see like a fun challenge to that, where like maybe it's a good exercise to kind of like see if you can draw stuff other people, you know, want you to draw, that they then maybe kick in a little cash for. That I could kind of see too. I think it becomes dangerous when it becomes like the modus operandi of like a business, because like I said, I think it's really, I don't know. I mean, I think you can end up being caught in a hole where you're doing so much output for little monetary input, and you're sacrificing time on the things that you actually would want to create, you know, and also kind of paying that cost of the brain power and the art time that, you know, is basically a limited resource. And you could kind of just take a day job and then like still have that juice when you get off work, you know. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, I have seen where people who, like you said, it's kind of a limited resource, where they don't typically do commissions, but every once in a while, maybe something comes up and they like need money quick. And it's like, okay, I'm open up for commissions, and, you know, it's probably not, you know, and you kind of have to watch it, and you might want to put a cap on it, because then you get a lot of people. You got a lot of people in, and then it's good because you've got the money you need to pay those bills right away. But then you find yourself still working on those commissions into when you start getting actual other work and stuff. So you got to be careful. But sometimes that is a, you know, if you're like desperate to do something, and it's kind of just something you can kind of open up real quick and then shut it down. I've seen people do that before.
No, yeah, I love, and Josh has mentioned this over and over again, but I've come to love the fact that artists have the ability to do that. You know, it's very few professions can you just say, I need more money in the next 6 hours, and then more money shows up. Like it's like it's like the coolest thing. I want to ask the two of you this, because this is another thing when it comes to pricing and commissions and things. If you follow certain Twitter accounts that kind of mock people that try to get things for free, which is like one of my hobbies, is just making fun of people trying to get artists for free. Is is the joy of it, the entertainment value, the fulfillment that you get out of it. When I have a drive, when I see a movie that I love, when I read a book that I really enjoy, and I've done this, and people can look at my webpage and they can see fan art. It's there. I don't try to hide it. I really enjoy it. So let me ask you this. The difference between most client work and most fan art or commission or stuff that happens to be a little bit more pop culture or whatever, it tends to feel different. Like, I really like Deadpool. What if I just want to draw Deadpool? How much value do you guys place on the fact that maybe you don't want to draw the human heart anatomically correct from 4 different angles because it's just not that fun. And the fact that it pays super well compared to, like, I really want to draw Harley Quinn. Harley Quinn is rad, and I like Harley Quinn. She's funny, and this guy's going to give me, a tenth of the money for it, but I'm going to enjoy that experience more.
Yeah.
What do you say to that?
I mean, I've got I did a thing where I drew some Stranger Things because I love that show. And, just kind of that was back when the show was, coming out, and I was excited for it. And like, I'm going to draw some Stranger Things and everything. But if that's all I was known, if people just kept coming to me, draw Stranger Things or draw something that you don't care as much about, like you do Stranger Things, that to me would kind of get old. But I mean, I love pop culture. Obviously I'm a geek and I love all that stuff, but I kind of, I want to do my own stuff too. So. Yeah,
I think I would say, I don't think there's a massive difference except maybe the legality of making it a product, like that would be a big difference between like the client and and just doing art for fun, like fan art.
Yeah.
I do think the authenticity of fan art really does kind of read a lot of the time. So I think that if you are going to delve into fan art, like I'd recommend doing it with stuff you actually care about. So you're not just like shilling. But then again, like, I can see the joy in like, drawing like, a property that you really like and kind of just wanting to tackle like, I really love these characters. I kind of want to participate with those characters. It's kind of like cosplay. To me, the big thing that I always kind of describe it as is like every once in a while, it's fun to go to a bar and hear a band just nail Hendrix,
Yeah.
Like there's some guitarist who's playing at a bar and he's just doing, a Hendrix song. Or he's doing Hendrix's cover song of like All Along the Watchtower. And it's like, yeah, this is rad,
Yeah.
But it's not Hendrix. And my point is like the thing I love, and this is a personal opinion, I think this is definitely an issue where it's like a taste thing, because obviously like there's some people who maybe like their favorite bands are all cover bands. For me, what I like hearing, if a band I like covers another band or plays another, set of music, is not to nail it exactly, but to bring their own take to it. I don't know if that makes sense. So there's that. I'd also say just like, I think it's a personality thing. Like I've never been the type of person who just wanted to play cover songs.
Yeah.
There's just something kind of dead about that. And I think there's value in covering other songs to kind of learn how to play and stuff like that. But to me, I want to see, like most of the time, even if I hear a really good cover band, I'm like a little bummed because I'm like, I want to hear their thing, like what's their song,
Right.
And that's just my personality. But, I'm also the type of guy who like, I also try to coax everybody into doing original graphic novels. So,
right.
Take it with a grain of salt. It's not,
no means no, Josh.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Just kidding. No, but this it's an interesting question for me because I started this conversation saying, here's an example of me doing something that I wasn't excited about. Like literally, they said, hey, let's see your stuff. So I sent them a bunch of my illustrations and they came back. I mean, and if you look at my illustrations, they're not medical grade illustrations, right? And they came back and said, we'd like you to do some 3D modeling of some stuff. And I was like, in ink, and they were like, no, in the computer. And I was like, okay. So I took it, right? Because I wasn't doing anything else that weekend. But at the same time, there are times where I will take a job because somebody says something like, hey, we're going to give you X, and it's not a big number, but it's something that I'm super excited about. Like, here's a chick riding a motorcycle, lighting the desert on fire, or, I want you to draw a series of insects as political figures or whatever. Like, I'd be way down to do those because I would probably do that for free anyway because I'm super excited about it, and it's just a great idea. And if I was offered a little bit more money, or maybe even a lot more money, or twice as much money to do something at the same time, where I was like, yeah, I'm not going to put that on my webpage. I'm not going to put that in my portfolio or whatever. Like, it would really depend largely on whether I really needed the money at that point in time. But I would probably go towards the one that I enjoyed more.
Yep.
And the one that I would be able to have some intellectual property in. But if I'm like in a super pinch, and somebody says, here's X, or here's X times 10, I'm going to take X times 10, no matter how I feel about it. And so it's kind of an interesting thing. And it makes me think of, there are lots of people who are super happy working at an animation studio or working at a whatever, doing other people's IP. And they do that 40, 50 hours a week. And they get to, go home and work on their side projects or their truck or their whatever. And they're great. Yeah. And that's super happy. And so it is kind of a personality thing. And there are other people, lots of people, and these tend to be the more vocal ones because they tend to be like the anomalies, I feel like, who they do that. They get the golden ring job at Disney or DreamWorks or Pixar or whatever, and then they leave because they want to start their own thing. And we tend to kind of glorify them because it's odd to make the insecure choice, the not insecure, but the less secure choice versus the more secure choice from a financial situation. But there are also probably just as many, maybe more people that are like, hey, I got a degree in art and I'm actually making money doing art at this thing. And it's great. Right. I've got to draw Shrek for the 50th time, this year. And I've been doing that for 10 years, but I'm drawing and I like drawing, and so, yeah, it's interesting. It's just an interesting thing to kind of, I don't know where I'm going with this other than it's very situational and it's very personal, and I don't think anybody could say like, here's the hard and fast rules, of how you should navigate this.
Yeah. I mean, I would just tell, mostly younger artists, like, pretty much like, if all you pursue is paid work, you might just end up joining the ranks of most artists, including myself, who really don't want to do paid work, like who just kind of want to do their own thing entirely. And, and then, even the jobs where it's like, hey, do your thing. You're like, yeah, but if you really let me do my thing, like you're not going to be happy. It is kind of a situational thing, but what's fascinating to me is like I'm constantly coming across artists where I'm like, they have that job, they have that perfect, sexy job that we all want, and they must have so much fun at work. And the first thing they want to hear or talk about is like their graphic novel or their animation or their novel or their thing they're working on. I would say that's where I think the opportunity cost thing is a really good practice, because keep in mind, like, how far is this going to take you from your objective? Like, that's a good question just to ask personally, because if your objective is just to do fan art, great. Like, that's great. You're going to have probably a happy life doing fan art, or your objective is to do commissions. But if your objective is to do something more, and then you're stuck doing commissions the entire time, you might want to kind of reorient or whatever and figure out what it is that that's like the greater picture of what you want to pursue. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's kind of where I'd end on with that.
Yeah. No, I think that makes sense. There's a business model out there. I wouldn't call it a model. There's an attitude of freak out, and I'm not even talking about artists. I'm just talking about small business, right? Whether you're a single proprietor, or whether you're talking about 5-10 people in a shop or whatever the service is, there's going to be peak times and there's going to be low times, feast and famine, right? Yeah. And the interesting thing is I've worked for some, I've watched others, right? And some are more extreme, but is during that low time, if you do the work that you should be doing, that high time will come. But if you take on the work that you shouldn't be doing because you need the quick money, what ends up usually happening is that you miss the high time because you have a glut of low time work. And so it's this really interesting thing that causes not peaks and valleys, but valleys and plateaus, valleys and a slight hill and then another valley again, whereas if you could do it, and I don't want to judge people who own a business because I have never had the stress of having to make payroll. And that is a huge, I don't know if I could do it. Right. I've seen the numbers that it takes, and I don't think most people think about that. Everybody likes to say negative things about people that own businesses and, how greedy they are and everything. But like, can you lay your head down at night knowing that 4 days from now, you've got to figure out how to come up with $15,000 or lay people off who have kids?
Yeah.
Like that's a tough call. But what I've seen is, that good work will come. And if you have so much low-paying bad work that you did just to get by, that you can't do the good work justice, that good work will stop coming as frequently. And that's hard. And that's super hard because, in essence, what I'm saying is that when times get tough, take enough to get by, but not so much that, you feel good about it, because that's probably too much. And then when that big project comes along, well, I've got 16 projects that I need to knock out. They pay to cumulatively pay half of what that one big project is, but I don't have the time or the ability to do that big project because I've been batting rather than swinging for the fences, or bunting. I don't know. I tried to use a sports analogy, the stick thing with the ball. I don't know, when they don't try to hit a home run and they try to just get a grounder or whatever. The idea is that it's a vicious cycle. But also that good work begets more good work. It's kind of interesting. So, yeah.
Yeah, and like my own experience is like attested to that. Like I've mentioned this before, but I many times when I was running my own freelance business, I caught myself just like, you are so based on just kind of keeping the floor under you for the majority of the time that you can easily kind of lose sight of a greater objective. But what's weird is the stuff that always led to better, sexier work was always the stuff I'd do for fun on the side.
Yeah.
And the stuff I was really proud of that I wanted to put in my portfolio. Whereas the stuff that, was busy work, a lot of it ended up being just that. And it had the value of the paycheck, and that's it. Meaning like none of it transcended the paycheck. I wouldn't show anybody the work from some of those jobs because it just was a paycheck, and it functioned. It got the job done. But it's like, you don't want to lose sight of those broader things. So whether you're doing commissions or not, like I would say, just don't take your eye off like the broader objective of your career or of your ambition. Like Craig Thompson, while he was working on blankets, he did a whole bunch of cartoons for Nickelodeon magazine. He did like a lot of in-house work. I think he was working for Dark Horse, like just doing cleanup and scans of pages. But, he also carved away at like Goodbye Chunky Rice and then blankets. And I mean, I don't think he's like looking back and going like, I wish I hadn't made blankets. I wish I had done more, one-shot cartoons for like low pay. That's kind of what I'm getting at. Same with like Chris Ware did a lot of album covers and stuff, but I don't think he's like kicking himself going like, why did I do this stuff that's gotten me to the point in my career where I'm hired by the New Yorker to do their covers? Like it's just not, I don't know, to me that's kind of the balance of being a creative and stuff. But I do hope I haven't come across as too harsh on commissions, because like I said, I think anybody who can kind of manage to eke out any amount of pay to kind of do art or drawing, in a weird way, you're kind of cheating the system just by getting away with it. So if you can keep getting away with it, keep going.
Yeah, and I kind of feel like whatever you've got to do to cover your expenses and stay out of debt,
Yeah.
Whatever you've got to do to do that is great. Squatchy Ink in the chat said, try having to do infinity knots and feathers turning into birds every week, and then doing names, only have to have the same people come in later and cover them up. And like at the same time, like that doesn't sound great, right? And obviously that's the point he's making. But at the end of the day, that allows you to, buy food and pay for rent. And then hopefully, you're disciplined enough at the end, and he is, at the end of the day to say, and I'm going to put a little bit towards me, I'm going to do my own thing. And so I don't think any of the three of us are saying that you shouldn't do commissions or that you shouldn't do client work or that you shouldn't do whatever, because there's no shame in being able to earn and being able to produce. Yeah. That's awesome. That's rad. I think the downfall, in my mind at least, where I get sad is when I see people that only do that and they miss out on the thing that they feel called to do. Now, if you feel called, to do whatever, like if you're just super excited, to do X, right? And it's not shiny or new or neat, or I've said, you've heard Cory Kerr say something negative about it. Screw me, who cares, right? Do your thing. Like if that's what you enjoy and you get value out of that and you're able to pay your bills with it, hey, that's fantastic, right? But if you actually feel like you could be doing something more, you could be doing something better, you could be improving, you could be making a difference in the world, you could create something that would make somebody laugh, you could create something, make somebody think about something, and you don't because you're chasing the dollar, I think two things are going to happen. One is you're going to live an unfulfilling life. Two is you're going to deprive the world of what you could have done had you had the balls to do it. And that's sad.
Yeah. Yep.
So, Scott, cool. Any final thoughts?
Not really, no. I mean, I think that was a pretty well-rounded conversation. As usual, we could always expand on it, but we have limited time. But yeah, I think we covered a lot of ground.
Nice. I will say, make sure you guys, like next time Scott's doing like a signing or something, he doesn't tend to do commissions outside of his Kickstarter. He's doing some sketches for, and he's doing it for in-stores. So if you missed the in-store and you want some original Scott Serkland drawings, you should go to youngandthedead.com and help him get even further on his Kickstarter, because there's a lot of really cool value there. And I think one of the tiers has some sketches. Am I wrong?
No, and I'm actually, it seems like it's getting to be a more popular tier, which is kind of cool because it is a higher tier, but I've got some people pledging at that tier, which is awesome.
Jump on there, you guys, get some original Scott Serkland stuff. Cool. Anything else? Did we miss anything else other than youngandthedead.com? Youngandthedead.com.
If you also, while we were talking about Young and the Dead and those tiers, the one you're talking about with those zombie sketches, that is a higher tier, but there is a slightly lower tier that is an early bird tier that when I first launched, there were some issues, so it didn't go live in the beginning. So there's still, I think, 5 of them available, and that includes a full color zombie sketch card. So that's probably your, that might be your best bet. If you can snag some of those before they're gone. So
nice. And then I was gonna say we'll have to touch on the topic of comic pages much later, and I think all three of us should organize some kind of original swap as well, because it'd be fun. All right.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, you just drop that bomb and then you just end it. I could talk about comic pages forever. But I think it's a good idea to end it. So, oh no, the text isn't coming up. All right. Well, imagine, if you will, text scrolling across the screen with websites.
Oh.
Yeah. It's.
Oh, that's dig, if you will. Sorry.
Yeah. Right.
Dig, if you
But if you want to check out Scott's stuff, which you should right now, like you don't even have to watch the rest of this video. Like go right now to youngandthedead.com, which will take you to a currently active Kickstarter. Then do that. Do that right now. Stop listening to what I'm saying. I'm just going to say the same thing I always say after this. So go do that. If you haven't done that, you need to make sure to just think like one less Happy Meal this month, and you could get really cool art from Scott. Right? Like all you have to do is just think like, maybe I just won't go out to eat like twice this month, and I could get like a lot of really cool art from Scott. Like that's decent stuff right there, right? And so anyway, think about that, and go to youngandthedead.com, which will redirect you to the Kickstarter. And if you want to check out Josh's stuff, you can go to quarterlystories.com. And if you want to check out my stuff, you can go to corykerr.com. And thanks for hanging around. Abe says, harsh truth, Cory. Glad to see some more people taking up that thought. So I'm glad it's both harsh and true, because that's how I roll. So we'll catch you guys in a couple days, and go make something cool.